Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm On Your Side with me, your host, Sierra Boudreau. Happy Sunday, or whatever day it is that you're listening to this. What do I have for you guys this week? Well, I know what I have, episode wise. I know what we're talking about, but I'm trying to think about if I have any updates so far. I know that last week we talked about how I got off of birth control and how I was thinking about starting up a Substack again, and I definitely still want to do that. I was talking about it in therapy today. Also, before we get into that, I want to talk about how so many people online will preface anything they want to say with "my therapist told me," and how deeply dangerous that can be. And I just want to let you know, if I ever say I heard in therapy or I was talking about in therapy or my therapist told me, you have to take it with a grain of salt. I know that I'm telling the truth, but you can never know for sure that I'm telling the truth. And it's not just about me, it's about anyone online that's saying that they're giving you advice from a therapist. And I say that just because I feel like I'm so protective of you guys and of this community that we built. And I would hate for you guys to be online and getting all of this secondhand information from somebody's therapist. Supposedly, allegedly, it's somebody's therapist, and really they're just saying whatever they want. And then they want to stamp it with therapist approval, even though they might not even have a therapist, or their therapist maybe never said that, or the way they're rephrasing it is a completely different thing than what their therapist actually said. And I just want to remind you guys to be wary of that, because getting secondhand information from somebody online saying that it's from their therapist can be really dangerous, especially if you can't confirm that and you really have no way to confirm that. And I know I say quite often, I was talking about in therapy or my therapist, whatever. I know that I say it a lot, and I just want to remind you guys that you have to be really, really careful when you hear things like that, because like I said earlier, I know that I'm telling the truth. I know that I heard it from my therapist, but the way that I phrase it might be different, or the way that I reframe it to you guys might be different. And so I just want you guys to be so, so careful when you hear that. Okay, back to the original thing though. I was talking about in therapy how I wanted to start that Substack, but I have this fear of it maybe, or this anxiety about it. And it kind of ties back to, actually, this would be great to talk about in the first Substack post that I want to write. But I used to write so much. Writing used to be the absolute joy of my life. I was writing every day, multiple times a day. I could sit down and get something out in 5 minutes and feel proud of it. And I felt so connected to myself and to my emotions and my relationships in the world around me, because I was able to articulate it in a way that I felt proud of and I felt connected to. But somewhere over the course of when I started birth control to now, writing and that love for it kind of started to dwindle down. And I have just kind of pushed it away because I didn't want to deal with that, because it felt really heavy for me to address and take on, because like I said, it was such a huge part of my life for so long. And then it just felt like over time, I couldn't write the way that I used to, and I couldn't articulate and communicate the way that I used to. And it wasn't like this overnight thing. It wasn't like I started birth control and suddenly I couldn't write anymore. It wasn't like that. It's just like with all the other side effects I'm noticing from being off birth control recently, is these are compounding effects. These aren't just I woke up one day and I had these emotions or this lack of emotion or whatever it may be. It wasn't like that. It was more like over the course of the 5 years I've been on birth control, things that I used to feel so connected to, I don't really feel connected to anymore. And that has been really hard for me, because it's one of those things where it's okay, I acknowledge this and I know it's happening, but I don't know what to do about it, because I don't know what it's stemming from. I don't really have the time and energy to dig deep and find out what it's stemming from. And it was I was still writing in some capacity, and I wrote something in, I believe it was November, on the plane back from London, that I was really proud of. And I shared that on my Substack. My Substack is actually still active. You can see all the things that I've written on there semi-recently, but I haven't written anything this year, anything that I really feel super connected to. I think I wrote one thing and I never shared it or did anything with it because I felt kind of iffy about it. And that's just where I've been. If I am writing, I feel really iffy about it. I'm not feeling confident, which is hard for me, because I used to feel so confident in the things that I was writing and the way that I was expressing myself. And then I just haven't been. And so since I've gotten off birth control, I've started to feel more connected to my emotions, more connected to my feelings, and I've been able to articulate them in a better way. And it's only been at this point 2 weeks since I've been off birth control. So it's, not all back the way that I want it to be, but I am feeling better and I am feeling more connected connected. And I don't know if that's placebo or I don't know if that's actually just what's happening, but either way, it's working out in my favor. So I'm going to take it as it comes. Talking about this in therapy, kind of like this fear of not feeling connected to myself or this writing something that I'm not proud of. And it's not necessarily even about me sharing something and people not responding well to it. That's not what I'm worried about. I just want to feel good about what I'm saying and what I'm putting out there. And it has been hard for me lately to feel that way. And so when I think about Substack, it's like, oh, it gives me this feeling of like anxiety just because it's, what if I sit down to write and nothing comes out? Or what if I sit down to write and nothing good comes out? Nothing that I'm proud of comes out. Like I'm writing a bunch of words, but they don't mean anything and they don't hold any substance or any truth. And so I think instead of addressing that and working through that fear, if it actually comes up, I've been trying to protect myself from it by not writing at all. And so if you've been wondering where that Substack has been, it is coming. I just really need to move past that fear. And in therapy, we were talking about how once I address things and say things out loud, it's actually my way of processing things. And so I spoke it out loud in therapy, and then I'm talking to you guys about it. And now it feels kind of like that fear is washed away and that anxiety has washed away. It's once I put a name to it and I say it out loud and I don't let it have power over me internally, everything just kind of feels simpler and calmer, and I can see it for what it really is. And what it really is not a fear of writing in and of itself. It's a fear of not feeling connected to myself in the way that I used to. But that's not something I really have to worry about because I'm taking the steps to feel more and more connected to myself every day. I say all that to say that when I write something and I put it out there, I want you guys to know how much it means to me and how much of myself I'm sharing with you guys. Obviously, I share a lot of myself with you guys on the podcast and on my other platforms and everything, and it feels different with writing because writing has been a part of me for as long as I can remember, as long as I could write. And when I'm sharing that, it feels like I'm sharing so much about myself in a way that's not necessarily minced or super edited. And I feel that same way with the podcast, I think too. It's the way that I can connect with you guys and share with you guys on the podcast is different than I feel like I can share and connect on the other platforms. And if you guys have been here for a while and you follow me here and other places, I think you know what I'm talking about. The way that I talk to you guys here and express to you guys here feels a little bit deeper and a little bit more honest in other platforms. I think because with the podcast, you guys follow me and you guys want to listen to my podcast. You are intentionally seeking it out. Whereas on TikTok, on Reels, whatever, people are just scrolling and they get served your content randomly. And so anyone can have any kind of opinion, which like I said, and I think last week's podcast, if I'm putting it out there, I need to be willing to have and take an opinion on it. And it feels easier for me to be willing to listen to opinions about my life or my boundaries or my experiences when it's people that I know intentionally sought me out, if that makes any sense. And so all of that to say, writing more, hopefully soon. I'm really excited to get back into it and just see what comes up. It doesn't necessarily have to be good. I made a TikTok about this months ago. I believe it was like a little bit later than this time last year, where I said, everything you do does not have to be the best thing you've ever done. That there are so many successful artists and actors and musicians and who create stuff, and it's not necessarily their greatest hit. And it's sometimes you create things and you don't share them. I'm sure Beyonce has a million songs she's written that she feels like aren't good enough and they're not going anywhere, and that's totally fine because they're for her. And so everything that I do doesn't have to be incredible, spectacular, groundbreaking. Just be because I want to do it. It can be because I feel that I deserve to do it. I deserve to express myself and share without judging myself or without allowing other people to judge me. It can just be what it is, which is something that I love. And so that's where I landed on that. So I'm really excited to hopefully get started and just see what happens. But what else is going on? Travel plans. Alex and I are going to San Diego at the end of the month, and I'm really, really excited about that. I know we were just in LA a couple of weeks ago, and now we're going to go back to California, but this time San Diego, see how we like that, see what feels right, see if that's kind of an area we think we might want to be in. I think that right now my heart is kind of set on LA just because that seems like where I want to be, but I haven't experienced San Diego. I don't know. I could go there and be like, oh, absolutely, this is where I need to be. So time will tell. I'll be there at the end of the month, and I'm really, really looking forward to it, just to be back by the water again, first and foremost, then to be in California again, to be on a little mini vacation. We're only going to be there as usual for a couple of days, nothing too crazy. We usually do our bigger vacations twice a year, like once earlier in the year and once later in the year, and we did a longer vacation. When is the last time we did a longer vacation? I think that we did, no, Hawaii was short too. I can't remember. I feel like we travel a lot. Alex and I travel a lot. Somebody commented on my TikTok the other day and they're like, girl, why did I see you at DIA the other day? And I was like, girl, because I'm always there. I am always in the air somewhere. I am always flying somewhere. I cannot sit still. And so very, very thankful for the opportunity for that to be true. But also sometimes I'm like, can you like sit down for a minute? And we're going to see about that once summer ends. But summer is the time to travel. Summer is the time to be outside. And I'm realizing lately my definition of being outside is not being at the bars. My definition of being outside is being on a plane. And that's what feels good to me right now. I love to be on a flight. I love to go somewhere new. I love to have a new experience. And so I'm really excited about San Diego. And then there's something, oh my God, you guys, I can't even share too much about it because I don't know how much, well, I don't know. But something really exciting is coming up. And I hate teasing things when I can't just tell you what it is. Teasing, I feel like, is not really in my nature. I like to just tell you guys what it is, point blank, period. But I am under contract for this, so I can't just like spill everything right now, but I will spill soon. And this is one of the most exciting partnerships that has come my way. I am so excited about. Actually, we have two really exciting partnerships that I literally, when I got the emails, I jumped for joy. So excited. And I just feel so lucky that this is my job. I feel so lucky that I get to work with brands and partners that align so well with my life and what I want to do and what I want to share with you guys and talk to you guys about. So stay tuned for those things. But one of them kind of pertains to what we were just talking about. So if you can kind of put two and two together, you might have an idea, but super looking forward to that. And I think that might be it for updates. Nothing too crazy happened this week. Just a therapy session, working, living. One more thing. Okay, guess what my new hyperfixation is? If you follow me on Instagram, you definitely know. My new hyperfixation is definitely baking right now. I cannot stop baking. In the past couple of days, I have made 2 batches of homemade cookies. I have made a peach crumble, and tonight I'm making carrot cake cupcakes because tonight Alex and I are doing date night. So we're making homemade pasta, and then we're going to make homemade carrot cakes, and we're making a spicy vodka, and we're home making the noodles because I got the KitchenAid, and then KitchenAid has an attachment where you can make pasta. And so naturally I had to get the attachment so that I can make homemade pasta. I don't even eat pasta that much, and I feel like I will eat a lot of pasta if I can make it from home. That's like really exciting and fun. And so right now, I don't even know if my hyperfixation is necessarily baking. I think my hyperfixation is the KitchenAid, and with the KitchenAid, most of what I can do is bake. So that's what I'm doing right now. But those cupcakes are going to be so good. I will share the recipe on my Instagram if they are good. If they're not good, well, never to be heard from again. But if they are good, they'll be there. And if you're ever wondering where links to things are, on my Instagram under In the Kitchen, that's where all of my food links are. So all of my creamy recipes, all of my like dinner recipes, all of my dessert, like all of that is there. And then regular links is just under links on my Instagram. They're all in highlights, so you can find them there if you're looking for them. But that is everything I have for updates. So we can go ahead and talk about the episode. I'm really excited about this episode because the idea came to me when I was on my walking pad. I think my best ideas when I'm either walking or in the shower or also in Pilates. And I think it's because when I'm in these situations, my mind is just kind of blank. This idea came to me when I was walking, and it's all about the idea of belief. What belief in us does, what belief of ourselves does, what belief of other people does, and how it really contributes to our entire relational, our entire personal development ecosystem, and how powerful belief really can be if we use it well and use it wisely. But it can also be kind of dangerous and damaging if we misplace it or if we give it to the wrong person, right? So we're going to dive all into that, and I'm really excited because I have a lot to say on this subject. So let's get into it. So the first thought that I had when I was beginning to explore this was the story you tell yourself becomes the story of your life. And what I mean by that is the things that you constantly say to yourself, the things that you allow to constantly be said to you, the things that ruminate in your brain repeatedly and you don't do any work to correct or to change, even if you don't want to. Like some of these things that replay in our brains are good, right? But the things that we constantly ruminate over and the things that we tell ourselves and hear often becomes the story of our life. That becomes the story of our life. That becomes the truth we carry with us. And the things that we believe about ourselves influence every single thing that we do. If you believe goodness about yourself and all of these good attributes and qualities, then you're going to seek out things that allow you to express that more and show that more. If you believe negative things about yourself, the opposite happens, right? And I got to thinking about the stories that I told myself over the course of my life and how they've influenced me. And when I was younger, I constantly told myself this story of like, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to find peace. Always seek things out that would either allow me to feel like that was true in the present moment or would be true in the future. And it really helped me make better decisions because I wasn't just living for right now. I was living for this idea, this thing that I wanted, this future plan. And I knew that if I believed in myself right now, then I'm going to choose things that allow those beliefs to come to fruition, right? And I think that in my childhood, we've talked all about my childhood, especially in the family affairs episode, if you haven't listened. But in my childhood, I often felt really lonely and I felt really isolated. And this belief replaying in my head allowed me to kind of separate from that and see something greater, see something bigger. And so like in high school, I was even middle school, I was always a theater kid. I loved theater. And at the time, it was just kind of like my lifeline. It was what got me through every day. It's where I made my very best friends. It's where I found myself. It's where I got to play other characters. It's where I got to explore my own creativity and my own ideas, and especially in improv, where I wasn't necessarily playing the scripted character. The character I was playing, I was creating. And through that, I got to figure out things that I liked and things that I didn't like. I got to explore things that I was willing to do on stage, things that I wasn't, how I wanted to interact with other people. I got to have a lot of fun with just trying different themes and seeing what stuck and what didn't. I really loved when I would make people laugh or I would make people feel any kind of emotion. I think improv, you think often is just comedy, and it's not. It can be influencing any kind of emotion. And I learned so much from that. And in the time that I was doing that, the belief was like, I am capable of this. I am good at this. When I step on stage, I am influencing some kind of emotion. I am making a connection to other people, to relationships, to myself. I am always gaining something from this. When I was in theater, I was giving so much of myself to the point where now I look back and I don't even necessarily wish I was still doing that right now. I feel like I gave theater all that I had in the time that I had it, and I cared so much about it and put so much effort into it and so much love and joy into it and got so much back from it, right? And that belief that I had in myself allowed me to gain so much confidence, and it allowed me to step on stage and even off stage in other areas of my life and just be 100% myself and feel good about who I was and confident in who I was, whether or not other people liked it, which is such a theme in my life now, being authentically myself. Whether or not people like it or agree with it, it's really not up to them. It's really not up to them. My life is entirely up to me, and I stand by that. And I think that I planted that seed when I was younger and I was performing in this way, and I was saying whatever I put out there is what I'm going to be proud of and is what I'm going to enjoy doing. But ultimately, I want to step off of that stage and feel really proud of the performance that I just put on. And now in my life, I'm obviously not doing, I guess I am improvising every single day, right? I mean, like that's kind of the theme of life. Like we're showing up and trying our fucking best. And then later in life, when I was in college, I think that I just generally had this belief that things were going to work out. I was never so afraid of homesickness. I mean, obviously I wasn't afraid of homesickness. You know the situation that was. But I think that I just wasn't afraid of going to college. I totally believed that I was going to go there and I was going to grow into myself and I was going to meet my people and I was going to have an incredible time. And I did. And that's the belief that I carried with me. And while there were hard times and while I struggled with some parts of college, the overwhelming feeling was this is good. This is where I need to be. And I really am appreciative of that because I think that a lot of people spend half of college wishing maybe they were somewhere else, wishing they picked a different college, wishing they felt more connected to people, wishing they were home, wishing for something else, right? And then they spend the other half of college wishing they didn't do that for the first half of college. And so their mind is always somewhere else. Their mind isn't present. And for me, I think I was so present in my college experience, just like theater. I don't look back at college and wish I could do it again. I would not change a single thing about college. I think that I put my entirety into it and I loved it so much. And I took every single experience that came to me and I found more opportunities, and I would not go back because I wouldn't change anything. There's no reason to go back. And I also think about college and how different my life was and how just going back to that would be so insane. Not that we can ever go back, but I think that I'm really thankful that I wouldn't. I'm really thankful that I don't sit there and think about my past and wish that I could change things and live with all of these regrets, which reminds me of this song lyric by Bleachers. Bleachers is my favorite band, if you guys don't know that. And Bleachers has Jack Antonoff, who produces a lot of music, a lot of Taylor Swift's music. He produced some of Sabrina Carpenter's new music. music. Lord's album Melodrama, I believe he produced. I mean, he is like everywhere in pop music sprinkled through, and he has a band, Bleachers. There's a song called I'm Right on Time, and one of the lyrics says, the future's past, I'm right on time. And when I first heard that, I don't think I really connected with it. And then one night I was just listening to the album, and I was sitting there like really paying attention to it, really soaking it in. And when I heard that, the future's past, I am right on time, I finally understood my own perception of like what he was talking about, that I currently am the future's past. Right now, I am the past tense of what I will be in the future. So it's my obligation right now to live my life in the absolute best way that I know how. Obviously, I can't do what I don't know. Living my life as if I intentionally picked this day, I intentionally made all of the decisions that I'm making. I am very, very careful about where I put my energy and where I take my energy away from, because I don't want to look back when I'm in the future at my life right now and wish I did something differently. And obviously, in the future, maybe there are things that are going to shift and change, and I might wish that I made different decisions. I don't know. But so far, I don't wish I made any kind of different decisions in my life. I think that every decision that I've made has led me to where I am right now, and I am so, so grateful for that. And right now, being the future's past, it is my obligation to live in it as if I intentionally came back to it, picked it, and then did the best I could with it. And that also reminds me, that's like the premise of a movie, About Time, I believe, where in About Time, oh my God, it's all like coming together, but in About Time, the main character can time travel. The entire male side of his family can. And so he goes back to certain days in his life to try to change things or fix things or rework things. And then he comes to find out that when you go back in time and you change things, your future inevitably changes, right? You can't just go back and make one different decision, because one different decision can then change your entire life. And so he, at the end of the movie, comes to this conclusion that every day that he wakes up, he is intentionally choosing to live that day as if he came back to fix something or do something or be more intentional in the day. And when I heard that, that really stuck with me. And I'm just smiling right now because I'm thinking about the fact that that is a movie that I watched years and years ago, and how I've somehow been able to connect it to a song that I love right now, and how it just feels so true and authentic to the way that I try to live my life. And I love when little moments happen like that, where something, a theme that you heard or something that you maybe experienced when you were younger or in a different phase of your life comes back up, and you can attach new meaning to it and deeper meaning to it. And so all of that to say that I'm trying my best to not just be passive about my life, and I'm trying my best to not just let things happen to me. I'm trying to happen to things, because when I happen to things, I have a say in the matter. I have a choice in the matter. I have control in the matter. And naturally, there are things that I won't be able to control, and that's okay. I control what I can control. I'm proud of the decisions that I make, because those decisions are mine. And I am the best person to make decisions for myself, because I am the only person who truly can. And so rather than wishing and hoping we could be retroactive, why don't we just be proactive? Why don't we make decisions today that we think are going to influence us in a positive way in the future? We can do that. And instead of just waiting for the future to happen to us and waiting for this day that we're not even sure that's coming, because like I mentioned on, I believe last week's You're Gonna Be Fine This Week, the future exists in our head, right? The future is not this tangible thing that we can reach out and touch. The future is made up. And one day we're going to get there and it will be tangible, just like the present is tangible. Past and the present are in no way like the future, because the future has not happened. Everything we anticipate, everything that we think is really in theory. And so I think it's a really good question to ask you guys, like, what do you believe is the story of your life? What beliefs are you carrying with you? What stories are you telling yourself? And then on to the next point, what stories are you allowing other people to tell you about yourself? We have to be so careful with who we surround ourselves with, because we might think it's innocent and we might think it's passive, but the things that people say to us, about us, and around us start to shift the way that we see ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us. It can truly change everything. The people that you surround yourself with are so important to your development, right? And so what stories are other people telling you about yourself that you've started to believe to be true? Like, I think about this sometimes. When I was younger, I like a kid, maybe 5, 7, like 9, before 10 years old, really, people, when I was out with my mom, would always tell me and tell my mom that I was pretty. And hearing that so often just shifted something in my brain that from a young age, I never really struggled with insecurity, because the story that I was constantly being told was I was pretty and I was sweet. It was, if not by other people outside of the home, it was constantly something that I was being told within the home. I was always told that I was pretty. And I know that pretty is not the most important thing that you can be. It's really not about that. It's just an example that I've chosen to share with you guys, that because of that story being told to me from a young age, and then as I grew up, obviously, I was being told that I was pretty, just not in the same way. I think that when you see kids, it's naturally like, oh, you're so cute. Oh, you're so pretty, right? And then like a 13-year-old, you're not just gonna like, it's just different. I don't know. I think that like I just experienced it a lot in my youth, and then experienced it a lot in the home as I started to grow up and whatever. And then from my friends, from different various boys, whatever they wanted to say. But you know what I mean? Like I was hearing this so often that I didn't really have time to form the belief that I wasn't pretty. And I reflect on when I had my eating disorder, right? And I remember in therapy when I was talking about my eating disorder with my high school therapist, she was like, what do you think is the root cause of this? Where is this stemming from? She said it in a better way than I can remember now, but that was the root of the question. And I remember saying, it's not that I feel insecure in my body. I don't really feel necessarily positive or negative about my body. It's that I'm seeking out control. And a lot of people, I think, that struggle with eating disorders want their body to look a certain way, want their body to shape a certain way, to fill out a certain way, to unfill a certain way, whatever. And because I didn't struggle with that side of it, it was more so that I just wanted control over my life, and I could control what I was eating, and I could control what I was throwing up, and I could control my binge and restrict. I can control those things. It wasn't even about aesthetics. And I think about how lucky I feel that insecurity in that way. I feel like I've struggled with insecurity in other ways that I think we've talked about. Like I feel insecurity about my intelligence. I feel insecure sometimes, like we were talking about earlier in this episode, about my articulation, things like that. But insecurity about my looks just never really occurred to me, because that was a belief that I carried with me from a very young age, that I was pretty. And so, but that's not a belief that necessarily was intrinsic to myself. I didn't just one day look in the mirror and be like, you're so gorgeous. It was hearing it from other people, being surrounded by people who were constantly reinforcing that. And then I started to believe it. So do you see why it is so important to surround yourself with people who are telling you stories that lift you up, that build you and influence your life in better ways? If you're surrounding yourself by people that are constantly telling you that you are good and that you are deserving and that you are worthy, those are the kinds of things that you're going to start believing about yourself. Because if your partner is constantly putting you down, if your partner is constantly telling you you're not good enough, that you're incapable, that you're stupid, that you're whatever negative things they are constantly telling you, then those are the things that you're going to start believing about yourself. It's not about one day you started to think it and thus it was true. It is about other people started telling you that it was true, and so you believed them. And so I ask you, why are we so willing to believe other people who tell us who we are over ourselves? And I think it's because we do not have a firm grasp on who we are. We allow ourselves to be mirrors to other people and allow other people to perceive us and those perceptions to become our truth. And while in some ways that can be beneficial, like I was just telling you guys about, in a lot of ways that is extremely harmful, especially when you don't have a good grasp on who you are individually and you are so easily swayed by what everyone else is feeling and what everyone else is thinking about you. And so I encourage you to make a list. I am all about lists. And what this list is a list of things you know to be absolutely true about yourself. Things that not even other people have told you, but things that you've told yourself, beliefs that you have about yourself. Get familiar with this list to the point where when somebody comes up to you and they say something negative and it completely goes against what you have on your list, it doesn't even faze you. It doesn't affect you at all. Why would it? You know it's not true. If somebody comes up to you and they say, I hate your bright blue hair, and your hair is jet black, that's not going to faze you at all, right? Because you know it is so obviously not true. You see yourself every day, you know what you look like, and so you know that comment has absolutely no hold on who you are. Think about the first time that I really started to doubt myself, and it wasn't a doubt that came from within, it was a doubt that came from other people. It was somebody else saying I couldn't do it, somebody else saying they didn't believe in me, and so I believed them, and how much that affected me, because I had to really work on that and I had to grow past that. I was allowing my personality, I was allowing my beliefs, the thoughts that I replayed in my head to be shaped by other people. And you have to be mindful of when somebody is telling you something negative about yourself, how much of it you're willing to believe, right? Especially if you don't connect with it. Sometimes people are telling you things about yourself that you do need to hear. Sometimes you do have negative qualities that you need to hear and address from people that you love. And that is a whole different thing. Somebody shooting down a dream or a goal that you have because it makes them feel better because they're not actively achieving dreams and goals that they have should not land with you, because it is absolutely not true. If you believe something is going to happen for you, why in the world would you squash that belief to make room for somebody else's doubt? Somebody else's doubt does not live in you. Somebody else's fear does not live in you. You have to decide what lives here. My own opinion lives here. My own trust lives here. My own belief lives here. Somebody else not believing it's going to happen for me does not live here. I do not allow their opinions or their lack of belief to influence my full on belief, right? And I think a lot of us carry around doubt that comes from other people. Somebody else along the way made us feel unworthy, unlovable, disgusting, untrustworthy, whatever. Somebody else made us feel that way. And once they said it to us, we held it as absolute truth. And I know that it is really hard to start to erase away at that and start to replace what they said about you with truth that you carry from yourself. But the work is absolutely worth it. And I would even say doing that work is incredibly necessary, because you cannot live your entire life carrying around other people's doubt, other people's shame, other people's fear in hopes that one day you're going to push all past it and then suddenly it's going to work out. You have to reframe your mindset around these things. If you constantly believe that you're not going to do it because Johnny down the road said you're not going to do it, do you think that one day it's just going to happen for you? In order for things to happen, a lot of the time you have to make it happen. And it is increasingly easier to make something happen for yourself when you believe that it will, when you believe that you are capable of making it happen. Also leads me to say, I think it is a beautiful and very, very beneficial thing to surround yourself with people who believe in themselves. If you are surrounding yourself with people who carry around a lot of self-doubt and a lot of insecurity, then you're naturally going to start believing those things about yourself too. If every time you're in conversation with someone and they're putting themselves down and you start to feel really uncomfortable raising yourself up in these conversations, what do you think you're going to do? Naturally, you're going to find fault within yourself. That scene in Mean Girls, where all of the girls are looking in the mirror and they're pointing out things about themselves that they don't like, and then they look at Katie and then she says, oh, I forget exactly what in the movie she says she hates, but she points out something negative about herself, which is so naturally we all do that. When we're around extremely insecure people, we feel uncomfortable being confident because we don't want to make them feel bad. And I understand that. I never want to make anyone feel bad, but I also am not in the business of putting myself down so that somebody else can feel like we're on the same level. Some people you're just not going to be on the same level with, my love. Some people are deeply insecure and so riddled in self-doubt, and you are not, and surrounding yourself with them brings you down a few pegs, and those people deserve friends and those people deserve love. But these cannot be the people that you surround yourself with day in and day out, because either they're going to rise and you're going to have to intentionally pull them up, or you're going to fall down and it's going to be unintentional on both parties. In order to lift someone up, you have to challenge when they say something negative about themselves repeatedly. You have to challenge that and say, hey, that's not true. And let's explore that. If you want to explore that, let's talk about that. If you don't talk about that, which takes a lot of emotional energy and effort, something that I'm so willing to do with my close friends. When my close friends talk negatively about themselves, we cut that shit out. I'm not going to allow myself to start believing that's how I should be talking about myself. And I love my friends so much that I want them to see the absolute best in them the way that I see the absolute best in them. And that is part of friendship. But it is really hard to do that when you're surrounded by a person or a group of people who won't hear that or won't benefit from that, and you just kind of feel stuck in it. You deserve to be in a relationship with people who feel good about themselves and who are going to challenge you on days that you don't feel good about yourself, and you express that. If somebody is in this vastly negative self-talk space and you say something about yourself, they're not going to be the one to challenge that. They're not going to be the one to help you see the best in yourself, which can be incredibly hard. Who you surround yourself with becomes who you are in some way. That you are, what's the quote? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And you're surrounding yourself with people who constantly compare themselves to you, who constantly have this overwhelmingly negative self-talk, who are riddled in insecurity. That is going to become a part of who you are. Maybe not all of who you are, but it's going to become a part in who you are. And it is your obligation to either reframe that and actively change that. But it is, I think, much harder to combat all of these negative things all the time and reframe them in your brain than just not hearing them all of the time. Like, that might sound harsh, and I hate for it to sound in a way that I don't mean it to sound. I don't mean this in a negative way. I just mean you have to be so protective of your energy and of your space and of your brain and of your beliefs. You have to be so protective of these things because other people aren't always going to protect you. If you're not careful, you can just become someone that you don't even recognize because other people are throwing things at you and you're letting them stick. You don't deserve to let other people's things stick to you. And then you wake up one day and you're like, wait, who the fuck am I? You get to decide who you are, and deciding who you are means being intentional about what you listen to, what you watch, who you surround yourself with. And I say what you watch because with a lot of influencers, and when I talk about influencers, I'm including myself in there because I am one and I acknowledge that. But with a lot of influencers, our job is to link things, is to sell things. And when you're following all of these influencers whose main point is to sell to you, is to make you a consumer, and then you wonder why so many young people are saddled with credit card debt. It's every day we get online and somebody's linking this new thing, this best thing. You need this. You have to have it. Go grab it. And you're seeing that all of the time. What did you think was going to happen? It is, like I said, in the realm of friendship, it is a lot easier to save money if you're not constantly being surrounded by people who are telling you the best ways to spend money than it is to just not be following people who tell you to spend money every day. And if you feel like I'm selling things to you all of the time that makes you uncomfortable, please feel comfortable unfollowing me, muting me, only engaging with my posts, not engaging with my stories. Do whatever you need to do. And I love whenever you guys support me. I love when you guys click on my links. It means so much to me. It is what helps me have a career. That said, if supporting me is detrimental to your mental health, to your bank account, to your sanity, it is not worth it, my love. I love doing affirmations because it starts to reshape your brain. When you're saying these positive things to yourself every day, you start to see evidence of it, whether or not the evidence was already there. Sometimes you're just noticing things that have always been there, and sometimes things are coming to you, and both are good. But when you start to say these affirmations and you start to reshape the belief that you carry about yourself, about your relationships, about your job, about the world around you, there is so much more goodness that seems like it's right at your fingertips. If you say these affirmations and you truly are putting your energy and time and effort into them, just notice. Just start noticing. It's not even necessarily about new things coming to you. Sometimes it's just about opening your eyes and noticing what has been there the whole entire time. Now it feels new when really it has just been there, but because you notice it now, you can do something with it. And there is so much joy in that. There's so much goodness in that. So to wrap up the episode, I just want to remind you that your beliefs are your life. Your beliefs are your joy. Your beliefs are your connection. Your beliefs are your opportunities. The things that you believe to be true are true. I say it's true, and so it is. And when you start living with that intention, you become very careful of who you surround yourself with, of what you listen to, of what you watch, what you start to allow to penetrate your belief system, because it influences every single thing you do, every single thing you say, where you go, all of that stuff. And so I hope that this episode reminded you that you have so much power. You have more power than you think that you do. You have enough power to start to shape the way that your life goes. And that starts with the things that you believe about yourself, whether that's what you started to believe naturally or what other people told you, it doesn't matter. And what matters is that it stuck with you. And just because it stuck with you for a period of time doesn't mean it needed to stick with you forever. Some things you can acknowledge and you can say, I know where this came from and it is no longer true to me. I am actively going to change that belief into something else. If you're trying to get rid of negative beliefs about yourself, you have to replace it with something. So if your belief is that you're not smart enough to get into grad school, if your belief is that you're not ever going to find a partner, you have to replace those things. I am intelligent and I will get into the grad school I want to get into. I am a great partner to have, and so I deserve to have a great partner. To actively go against what you once held true and replace it with something. Replace it with something good. Replace it with something substantial. Replace it with something that you can repeat to yourself, that you can put on a sticky note, that you can tell your friends to speak over you. Replace it with something that will actually stick with you, because it will change your life, and you deserve to live the life that you want to live. I talk about deserving a lot on this podcast because I think that a lot of us don't actually feel like we're very deserving of goodness. We feel like we deserve whatever we get. We feel like we deserve whatever happens to us. You deserve goodness, and you have a hand in getting that goodness by showing up and being intentional about what you choose to receive. And a lot of what you choose to receive, like I've been saying, starts with what you choose to believe. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I hope that you take something from it, and I hope we get to talk about it. Of course, my DMs are always open, so we can definitely talk there. I love when you guys message me after the podcast episode and you're like, love this, stuck with me. Whenever you guys share it, it means so much to me. And so I just am so grateful that you guys would do it. But your time and your attention means so much to me, and I'm so thankful that you would be here for it. I think it is just like validating a belief that I've had, that I have something to say, something substantial and something good and something worthy of listening to. And you guys agree with that belief, and that means so much to me because that's a belief that I've held with me for a very long time. And so to know that my belief in myself was right and it is working out for something just fills me with a joy that I can't even really express. But I will see you guys here next week and everywhere else throughout the week, and I love you so much, and I'm on your side. Mwah.